right, well, good afternoon and welcome everybody to Christmas in July. I'm your host, Kevin McMenamin of Loss Prevention Magazine. My co-host and partner in retail crime today is not Jack Britton. He is on vacation. I think he might have built that snowman for us. But today it's Stefanie Hoover. Hi, Stefanie, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Kevin?
Doing great. Thank you very much. We've got an awesome panel for you guys today. We're going to talk about preparing for the holidays and what that all means in our retail AP world, and share some best practices and tips and all kinds of good stuff. So let's get started into it. A couple of things we want to do first, and that's first off to thank our sponsors, because without these folks, we wouldn't be able to bring you these sessions. So we hope to show them some love. We want to thank Sensormatic, we want to thank Abras Retail, and we want to thank Checkpoint. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about all three of those. So Checkpoint Systems is one of the only vertically integrated RFID solution providers for retail. Checkpoint's intelligent retail solutions offers software, hardware, labels, tags, and connected cloud-based solutions, while Checkpoint's Alpha high theft solutions provide innovative high theft product protection solutions, such as industry-leading spider wraps and keepers. Checkpoint's product line brings clarity and efficiency into the retail environment anytime, anywhere. Learn more about Checkpoint at checkpointsystems.com. Next up is Sensormatic. Sensormatic is on the forefront of loss prevention innovation that also delivers greater visibility into shrink and improves operational efficiency. Our innovative solutions are designed to help retailers protect their merchandise, prevent shrink, and fight the threats posed by retail crime, while still delivering a frictionless experience for shoppers. Visit their website to learn more at sensormatic.com. And last up, we have Abras Retail. Abras Retail is a leading data science company for over 20 years of experience transforming commerce interactions by providing AI-driven SaaS solutions focused on reducing fraud, driving efficiency, and maximizing profitability, all while protecting the customer experience. Abras Retail serves a global base of retailers in more than 180,000 physical and online locations in 45 countries across 6 continents. More than 60 of today's top 100 retailers work with Abras Retail. Learn more about this great company at abrasretail.com. So for our sponsors, we also have a sponsor, our education sponsor, and that is the Loss Prevention Foundation. A big thank you to the Loss Prevention Foundation. If you are LPC or LPQ qualified, certified, you qualify for 3 CEU credits for attending the session today, so make sure you keep track of that. Brittany, you want to tell them a little bit about the magazine?
For sure. So magazine is so happy to be able to help put these events together and bring education out to the loss prevention industry as a whole. And just so everybody knows, you can subscribe today with using the QR code on the screen there, and subscribe to get our print issues for free. And we have a daily digital newsletter. Hopefully you all subscribe to that and get that delivered to your inbox daily. We do have, like I said, 6 print issues a year. They're free, as I said. Please subscribe today. And we'd also love to hear from you guys. If you want to write for the magazine, feel free to reach out to us at editor@lpportal.com and submit something that you'd like to write about. Love to hear from you. Thanks, Kevin.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's free. So if you're not getting it, then you're crazy. All right. Next up is our panel. We have an awesome panel from across the industry today, and the purpose of doing this was really to try to get perspectives from all different types of sort of verticals in our retail silo here. So starting with Dave Rogers from Macy's. Welcome, David. We've got Brenda Davis, Director of AP for Victoria's Secret. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you.
Jeremy Lynch, Senior Director of LP and Safety for PetSmart. Jeremy, glad to have you here. Sarah Johnson, who is the Senior Director of AP for the Home Depot. Welcome, Sarah. And Richard Basin, who's the Manager of AP for Fresh at Kroger. Richard, we'll let you tell us a little bit about what that means to be the Manager of Fresh.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just the Fresh Manager, you're the Manager of Fresh.
Yep. So, so with my role, my job is to partner back with all levels of our leadership through the company. When mostly partner back with merchandising to make sure we're developing the right plans within the stores to, one, drive sales, drive profitability, and mitigate shrink at the same time. But it's not limited just to the fresh side of the world. I also have the awesome responsibility of going back and making sure we're deploying all of our asset protection measures within our stores when it comes to safety, to product protection, all the aspects that we live every single day in the asset protection world as well. It's just half my day is focused mostly on the fresh side, while the other half is focused on that protection side at the same time and safety side. So it's a little mixed bag of both.
Well, you were very gracious to fill in. For those who saw that we were originally advertising with Teresa Tucker, Richard worked with Teresa, and Teresa got called into another commitment. So Richard was gracious enough to step in for us. So Richard, we're thankful that you're here with us today to give kind of the grocery perspective of this whole conversation about preparing for the holidays. We've got a lot of us have our Christmas backgrounds on today. I was able to pull out pieces from the Santa suit. I've got if anybody else understands what this means, and Stefanie says you can't be her friend if you don't know what this is and that this is a Christmas movie. Unfortunately, it's backwards, but if you can read it backwards, Nakatomi Plaza, Christmas Party, 1988. I was there, showing my age a little bit, but I do believe, Stefanie, that is absolutely a Christmas movie.
It sure is.
It absolutely is. All right, guys. So let's stop staring here and let's just get everybody on screen and bring everyone up. So we're going to talk a little bit about, preparing for the holidays and what that means for asset protection. Brenda, I know I think we kind of pulled you away from doing exactly this, that you stopped because you're kind of in mid-process. I think we're all a little bit in mid-process for that, right? But I know that you've got meetings like next week that you're rolling things out with this. So tell us a little bit about, sort of what's going on with you and your teams right now, preparing for the.
Sure, that's right, Kevin. So we are right in the midst of preparing for and getting ready to hold our annual Fall Focus meeting. So it is actually a live stream event that we do every single year with our field team and some of our campus team and our emergency operation team as well. And it really is our kickoff to the holiday season for the asset protection team. And it's where we really do the preparing and planning for our team. So we use that time to refocus in some key areas. So specifically associate safety and workplace violence, internal and external investigations, and shrink awareness. And of course, we do some recognition in there as well. So that's coming up next week. And then a couple of other things, Kevin, I'd like to share that we do as well, just in terms of preparing our team as we get into the holiday season. So throughout September and October, we launch what we call our holiday spotlights. And those really are a biweekly digital e-learning module that goes out to our AP team. And those are focused on key areas, things such as holiday hiring and the internal risks that go along with that, the increased risk of shrink with shipment deliveries being increased, and a few other topics. So in any case, we launch those biweekly through a digital e-learning platform, and those coincide with what's happening in the business. So stores at VS&Co are going to be hiring up here in the next few weeks, and so that will be the first one that we launch. So they are coordinated to be integrated into what's happening in the stores. And then the last thing I'll share is that kind of as a partner tool, if you will, to the holiday spotlights is a shrink awareness guide. And that again is for our AP team. And that's really to assist them to ensure they're conducting highly effective shrink conversations, essentially, if you will. So business discussions that are connected to shrink during the holiday, and really helping them raise shrink to a business discussion when they're in stores, especially during, the busy holiday time. So those are really three things that are going on with us right now that we're preparing for and getting ready to do with our team.
So, Jeremy, I think you guys have a little bit different perspective at PetSmart, right? Because your teams are, when we talk about your teams, it's a little bit different structure for you, right?
Yes, definitely. We don't within our stores, we don't have LP or AP professionals. Our field loss prevention safety team does a phenomenal job at a regional level of bringing awareness and education and support to life within our stores. And so that's what we're focused on over the course of the next couple of months, very similar to Brenda's relates to topics of leveraging our awareness program and our safety observations program to help lean in and maintain that situational awareness of all of our associates in our stores during this time. we're going to be focusing on topics like sprain and strain prevention with the increased volume of product flow coming into our stores over the course of the next couple of months, helping ensure that we're supporting each other with team lifts, using the right equipment to help reduce sprains and strains. Also, the importance of proper store access. So leaving the building in pairs, entering in pairs, looking out for one another to make sure that we're safely entering and exiting, keeping our team members safe, as well as, again, similar to what Brenda was mentioning around our de-escalation training. So during this time, we might see an increase, as many of us are seeing across retail, with pet parents, or in this case, maybe customers that are upset, and helping prepare our teams to properly and safely respond to that. And so the topics are planned out over the course of the several months as builds rather than all at once. So that way, as we ease into the holiday time period, it's really timely of which topics we're honing in on and focusing on to help bring them to life throughout the holiday time period.
Excellent. Excellent. David, tell us a little bit about how you guys are preparing at Macy's.
Sorry, I think you called on me, Kevin. Your audio was a little muffled, but from a Macy's standpoint, we're investing heavily into physical security. We've purchased thousands of locks that are being deployed and installed in all of our stores. This is twofold. One, they're digital punch locks for our assembly areas if we were to have an incident in our store. We also have some thumb locks that are strategically placed, so we're able to close entrances in a rapid manner if we need to. So having some physical infrastructure and to support some of the threat training we did with all of our stores last fall season, this was the next step in that progression to make sure that we had the hardware to back it up. The other thing that we are doing too, and it's finishing out this spring season, is de-escalation training. This is where we have some moments in the store, either with our customers, maybe even another colleague, or some incidents that may happen in our store, and figure out what the best way to de-escalate it, remove ourselves from it, and what the safest route is for our colleagues, whether it's AP or our store colleagues, to make sure that we're choosing our people over our product at every decision we possibly make. From a technology standpoint, we have a full court press in ensuring that all of our systems, our stress tests, our cameras and video servers are fully functional. And we're heavily penetrated into RFID innovation and making sure that all of our detection measures are tuned into our other systems in our store and are working together in that ecosystem. We're also making sure we're leveraging technology like license plate readers, as well as some of our towers out in our parking lots. So it's really twofold from a physical security standpoint, training, as well as some of the technology that we layer in to make sure it's fully functional and ready to go.
Excellent. Sarah, let's talk about what this means at Home Depot, because this isn't really your big season to begin with, right? So you still got to prepare for the holidays, but you're going to be doing it a little bit differently than a lot of other retailers are, right?
Yeah, no, you're spot on, right? Spring is a huge selling season for us, right? Into projects and outdoor projects and all of those things, and certainly a lot of high price point product that we're selling during the spring season. But what makes the holidays a little bit different for us from spring is that we go through hard close events for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so, you know, those are the only few days a year that we actually, everyone leaves the building and we are wide open, as some people would like to think, but certainly along the same lines as Dave and Jeremy and Brenda said, you know, hitting it from a couple of different ways. Certainly pressure testing the systems. We go through alarm testing to make sure that all points are secure, everything's working the way that it should. Certainly cameras and technology, that all of that's up and running. More importantly, do we have the right people on alarm lists and know who's going to respond and who's going to, you know, respond to all of those things? Who can we call in the stores to make sure we're prepared for that? But on the flip side, we spend a fair amount of time with our operations partners going through and making sure, you know, certainly from an AP side of the house, that we're executing the programs and training and re-educating folks about the risks, but partnering closely with those operators to make sure that we are paying attention to things like front-end accuracy and fraud scams that you see this time of year when you think about gift card fraud and, you know, promotional fraud and all of those pieces. And, you know, really just making sure that we're educating everyone across the board, from our divisional leaders to regional leaders down to our hourly associates, about what's going on, what they can expect, and what they should be looking out for. and most importantly, certainly how they take a partner with our AP field teams to make sure that we get through the holiday safely. And to Dave's point, we can replace merchandise any day of the week, but we can't replace our associates and our customers. And so that is a really big focus for us, not only this time of year, but every day, certainly throughout the year.
Absolutely. Richard, tell us a little bit about what this looks like from the grocery perspective, because it's a little bit, you know, it's more different with the home improvement and DIY type environment where this isn't really their big game, but everybody's got to eat, so it's still your big game.
That's right. So, you know, I can really echo a lot of the comments that are already made, you know, from the loss prevention side or asset protection side. That we do a lot of pre-planning, you know, to make sure that our teams are educated and they understand what the plan is and how to execute, you know, everything from de-escalation training to, you know, that shrink preparedness plan, and make sure everybody has awareness of what that is and how to deploy and when to deploy. From the grocery standpoint, or from, you know, a fresh perspective as well, you know, our motto is sell more, lose less, right? And we drive this through just continued partnership back through our merchandising teams, our supply chain, and our operations teams. Make sure we got full alignment of what the plan is going into the holidays, because while Christmas and Thanksgiving is our really our time to shine, we have multiple holidays through the year. So really, we're in this continuous mode of prep all the time for continuous holidays. Now while we primarily focus on sell-through, the key holiday items, we also focus on just the day-to-day behaviors that we know drive successful sales and freshness and safety within the stores, and that product protection. This includes, you know, just load verification, sales plan execution, you know, proper ordering, you know, production procedures on how much to make in certain quantities, execution of those exit strategies that we have lined out within our shrink plans, and also just that product protection and make sure associates are engaged on how to apply that and where to apply that. We also leverage technology quite a bit, you know, everything from the great solutions most of these retailers have in place now, per check, lock camera, you know, our tower cams within our parking lots. But most importantly, it's around that safety factor as well. Sarah had mentioned, you know, we want all of our guests that come into our store, as well as our associates, to have a pleasurable experience and go home safe. You know, you think about the holidays, it's a sensitive time. And there's a lot of pressure, right? You know, not only on associates, but customers coming into the store. So, you know, we got to do our best to make sure that everybody, you know, has that pleasurable experience. And the best way to do that is leverage technology within our stores, but that continuous education at the same time.
You know, it's funny. I got to be at your asset protection meeting this year, and I love Mike likes to keep things simple.
Mm-hmm.
Sell more, lose less. You know, like. It doesn't get any more simple than that. I think
That's
we're all
right.
trying to do the same thing, right?
It's an easy business. We're selling cans of beans. So
yeah. But I'm hearing a common theme, right? And I think pretty much everybody used the word de-escalation, safety. You know, we're seeing you know, across the industry, and I know from the training perspective, I hear more now. We heard it a lot right after COVID started and all the craziness with, you know, people having a social distance and nobody liking that, or having to have to wait to go in and you know, in certain numbers, or walk one way down an aisle and not down another, or that type of stuff. And obviously that got a lot of people pretty hot, but it seems to have kind of resurged a little bit lately. And I think over the last 6, 7, 8 months, we've had more requests about, you know, de-escalation training and all of that, you know, type of thing. And I see everybody nodding, so it sounds like it's kind of everywhere. Jeremy, I'm thinking pet parents, you know, we're the nicest people in the world. Like, why would we need to be de-escalated? And what are some of those concerns, and how are you building that into your strategy preparing for the holidays when it comes to things like, you know, workplace violence, things like maybe domestic violence that spills in, and I bet that happens a lot in Brenda's world too. But and then, you know, just active threat. I mean, there's stuff that keeps us up at night, right, around active threat. Tell me a little bit about those, I guess, pissed off pet parents.
No, you hit it on the head, Kevin. No, typically, a pet parent coming into a PetSmart store is excited to be there, right? They're coming with their pet, they're having a fun experience, they're picking up some treats or toys, or maybe going to the salon or the hotel. So it's a pleasurable, exciting experience. However, someone might have had something going on in their day that didn't go well as they started their day, or We also have, some opportunities with vagrancy within some of the shopping centers that we might be located within that could cause some impacts there. So a lot of things that we emphasize is, again, maintain that situational awareness for our associates. So, excuse me, knowing how to help keep yourself safe and what to do in the event of escalation. So how to properly de-escalate, leveraging our customer service skills in the event that we can't de-escalate a situation, re-emphasizing the importance that our associate safety is more important than approving that refund or having a discount conversation. That an individual safety is much more important than any of that, and to help do what's necessary to help de-escalate the situation. In the event you can't de-escalate, remove yourself from the situation and partner with local law enforcement as needed. Those are some of the actions at store level that are taken. But in addition to that, our field loss prevention safety team, our investigations team, physical security teams do a phenomenal job of maintaining that situational awareness with threat intelligence to help identify other things that could be going on in certain communities, and then partner with local law enforcement as needed to help mitigate those threats when they're identified.
Sarah, would you say the strategy with what your teams are doing at Home Depot is aligned with that, or is there things that you guys do a little differently?
No, it's pretty similar. And I would just echo, Kevin, your statements of it is a crazy world that we live in today. And even driving home in traffic, you're like, man, you either had a rough day or, something's going on. And it's just taking less and less for people to get frustrated and really get into some of these confrontational situations. And so for us historically, and I think probably across the board, de-escalation has been a conversation that we've had with our AP field associates, with our APSs in the stores. It hasn't been something that's been completely necessary on the hourly associate side of the house, and certainly something that we've taken note of and are working to get that de-escalation training. It's not going to look exactly the same as it would if you're an AP specialist, but certainly arming our associates with a little bit more in-depth training, a little bit more awareness, exactly to Jeremy's point, knowing who to partner with, where to go, what to do, and how to handle some of those situations, because certainly, staffing is still a challenging across the industry. And so lines are going to be a little bit longer. People are going to get more frustrated with that. Potentially stock may be out of things if we're not able to protect it and it's stolen and they're coming in looking for their gift center, buys. And also definitely a lot of scenarios that we're seeing more and more of, unfortunately, and we want to make sure that we've got everybody ready to go. And, that even extends outside of the store. When you think about supply chain facilities, a lot of those, we're seeing a lot of escalations and opportunities there as well. Again, because, hours are long, environment's tough, and people are just really, really, like I said, in a weird place right now. So making sure that we're looking across the global environment to do our best to make sure everybody's prepared for that.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, right? I mean, it's almost like it's becoming that norm. It's like it's accepted behavior, and it's not accepted behavior. And the pressures that it puts on our associates, the pressures it puts on our AP teams, is pretty hard. David, I know you mentioned the other day a little bit about some of the things that you guys have at Macy's as far as support for that. What can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies have something called EAP. It's employee assistance programs. And generally, if you have a traumatic event that happens in the store, a company will help provide some well-being resources to those colleagues. When we looked at like some of our incidents that we're seeing today, and then the spikes that we've been seeing over the last couple of years, we realized there was a big impact on our AP specific teams at all levels. Once you go through a shelter in place, an active shooter scenario, a violent robbery in one of our stores, after they're done directing everything, they have to live with those emotions, and there's impact on our AP colleagues that they need to reckon with. And we are supplying 4 sessions to our entire AP team to help assist them on these events, starting in the month of August and ending in September. And the first session is geared toward our AP leaders, and that's helping our leaders manage our staff through stressful situations. When you have our hourly colleagues are looking up to our executives and saying, hey, how should I feel about this, and how do I get through this tough time? The second session is with all AP colleagues and hourly, executive, and everybody's free to join. And that's coping with a traumatic event. And these are clinical professionals that are leading these sessions that will help unlock some of these tools out there for our colleagues. Our third session is going to be around expecting the unexpected and how to think about a potential crisis and understand how we can anticipate some things and how we may react with some of our emotions. And then the last session will be tools to handle stress. I think we all handle stress in different ways, especially when we have a traumatic event, or it's just something rubs us wrong at work and causes stress, whether it's at a dinner time conversation or a drive with your spouse. You have that stress level, and there's tools out there to help us unwind and help us deal with that type of stress and trauma. So that is something specific to AP that we're doing this year that we just haven't done before, and we're so excited about what we're going to get from it.
That's excellent. That's great. And Richard, I know you guys have a pretty strong program at Kroger too. You've got a really good partnership across the business with the different departments working, kind of hand in hand, but then you've got this sort of overlying employee support network as well. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing from a workplace violence and an EAP or what have you perspective.
Yeah, so we leverage the EAP, tremendously. We strongly encourage all associates to take advantage of those programs and not to be ashamed to take advantage of that as well. So that's sometimes there's this stigma around going and utilizing those resources that'll be looked down upon or frowned upon. But by all means, we make sure we share that message that it's okay to not be okay, and to leverage those resources because they're there for a reason. And I'll share a personal story. I've used them personally myself from our associate resources. And I cycled in 1 year of battling a brain tumor, and I didn't know how to handle those emotions with myself, with my family, or just going through the day-to-day work environment. And I finally came to a point I realized it was time to go talk to somebody and leverage those resources so I can get a better frame of mind, a better state. And I'm a better person today for that. And my day-to-day life has changed dramatically because I've learned how to manage those emotions and better handle those. So by all means, it's encouraging the use of those because they're there for a reason, and to not be ashamed to use them. But from another side of it too, it's that re-education of the de-escalation is very important as well. When you think about the holiday season, we get a lot of first-time employees within our stores. So, and this might be their first experience of having that escalated situation put in front of them, where you have that upset customer, or that upset individual that comes into that store, or that, unfortunately, that traumatic event that might happen. But getting them to understand how to handle that, or to when to walk away and get a more trained associate to come help facilitate that as well, is crucial. So we make sure we do that continuous education and re-education where it's needed to make sure everybody's fully aware of how to handle a situation. But we also deploy increased hardened target measures to hopefully deter that physical threat, or that potential for escalation within the stores. And we do that through technology, parking lot coverage, leverage technology as much as possible. To create that awareness of protection and security within the store, right? To create that environment of a safe environment, not only for our associates, but for our customers coming in as well. So
excellent. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that, because I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Everybody, not everybody, but there's a lot of people who think that there's this stigma associated with asking for help, right? And some of us on this call, some of us may not be old enough, some of us are, to come from that world of, we grew up, it was just suck it up, buttercup, it was get over it, move on, right? And that's not necessarily, it wasn't okay to not be okay. So I think that putting that out there and sharing that, I think is great, and it's a benefit to everybody, anybody who's listening, who's struggling with any of that. Raise your hand, ask for help, talk to somebody. It's a very, very important. Brenda, you've got it's Victoria's Secret, right? So you've got a significantly high female workforce, right? And and what that brings. I mentioned the domestic violence piece in particular because that tends to be a pretty high statistic, from a female perspective, and a lot of that does carry over into the workplace. So from the perspective of helping your associates prepare for the holidays, the stress of the holidays, maybe outside influences that may impact their work life as well as their home life, Tell us a little bit about how you and your teams are preparing for that.
Sure. Yep. So I'll start with the support. So one of the things that I think is a wonderful thing that the VS&Co provides to all of our associates, part-time and full-time, is an EAP type program, and it's actually extended out to their family members as well. So I think it's a unique thing that not all organizations offer, but we do. And I think it's impactful, right? Because when you're having stress, whether it's at home or at work, it can impact the family. So it's a really wonderful benefit that we provide to all of our associates. Again, not just full time; it's our part-time associates as well. So people do take advantage of that. So wanted to share that to start. I think the other piece, you're right. So we do have a high female population that works for us. And that just, takes kind of a different track of things sometimes. So some of the things that we do, many of these are year round, but I'll speak a little bit specifically about holidays since this is the topic. So we have a very in-depth workplace violence training program that all of our store leaders go through, and it focuses both on de-escalation and on lockdowns. And whenever we hire associates, day one of their onboarding, part of that includes workplace violence training, which is also de-escalation as well in there. And so we start right at the beginning of providing them guidance and training on how to deal with situations and to de-escalate them. We also last year added an additional layer of a lockdown tool for lockdown and hide and physical security. So it's a tool that just better secures our backroom doors. So if you've been in our stores, you know that there's a swinging door that goes from the selling floor to the back room. So it was important to add kind of an additional layer for our store teams. And then every year during the month of October, from a preparing for holiday standpoint, we ask the leaders in all stores to retake the workplace violence module. So if it's been a year, we're asking them and to take it over again. And then we also have them spend time during their leader meeting talking specifically about their stores. So, we're primarily in malls and no two malls are the same. And so it's unique for each store, right? What type of gate they have, where their doors are, where their exits are, where their relocation meeting place is. And so we ask them as a leader team to go through and make sure everybody on the leader team, even sometimes we have temporary managers for the holiday season, so elevated associates, if you will, who maybe don't normally, go through those processes, but we make sure they're part of that learning as well. So they are prepared during the holiday season if in event they have to, manage through any of those situations. And then from our home office perspective as well, is we have a safety at work program that we ask all new hires to go through. So if you happen to work in our home offices or in the DCs, we're providing that to you as well. And then we have an emergency operations center that operates 24/365. And so they support our stores in the event of any safety situation or issue going on. They'll monitor the stores via cameras. They will reach out to the police and mall security for the stores, so the stores don't have to do that during an emergency situation. And then lastly, I'll just share on Thanksgiving and Black Friday weekend. Of course, for us, that's really one of the biggest weekends for us. We stand up a task force in the Emergency Operations Center that is specifically focused on what's happening in stores and monitoring, key stores, high risk stores, stores that maybe in the past have had some situations go on. And we partner with our mall security partners in advance of all of that and throughout the weekend, actually.
Excellent.
Great. I just had a follow-up question for the group. So I heard a lot about de-escalation training. Does anyone, and I think Dave, you might specifically mention this, does anyone utilize a third-party professional who helps you develop your programs or helps you do like a train the trainer type situation with your field teams?
We are dealing with a third party. I don't want to reveal that on this call, but we do have the professional guidance out there to make sure that we give the quality that our colleagues deserve.
Right.
One additional component that I loved what Richard was hitting on with some of our newer associates, perhaps encountering it for the first time. One of the things that we've done recently, and maybe helpful for other teams as well, is incorporating safety scenarios to help bring those to life within stores. Because whether it's my first time as an associate interacting with this type of situation, or maybe it's just the first time within this particular store that it's occurring in, helping them prepare with the, what would you do if, and then A, B, and C, just help to bring it to life, because when you're in the moment, it's best to be prepared for it, of course, as best as possible. So that's one of the things that we've done differently recently to help bring that to life for our teams and hopefully make them better prepared through that as well. That's helpful for the group as well.
That's an interesting point too, Jeremy, when you talk about doing things differently, right? And we learn from the past, we learn from what worked and what didn't work. Richard, what are you guys doing this year that you didn't do last year? Or, is there anything that you've learned in preparing for the holidays that has added to, what you got, the message that you guys are delivering out to the stores today?
Yeah. So, there's multiple layers to that, but, from a sales side, it's mostly leveraging our business partners and getting that extensive pre-planning done ahead of time, where we've done it in the past, but it wasn't as robust as what we've done this year. So making sure we've got that good process from stem to stern, getting involvement with procurement to make sure we got the right product in right spots at the right times, right? So also developing that robust exit strategy for the product that's coming into our stores to make sure that it can be deployed when needed in the proper areas. So a lot of times, in the past, we'd always leverage that. Well, exit strategy happens after the holiday. Well, not necessarily. We've come to the realization that sometimes you need to deploy it a little bit early in some situations. And it's okay to do that to maximize that sell-through and get that profitability that we want. But the other piece too is just making sure that we get that continuous re-education program and getting ahead of things when it comes to, to whether it's a shrink plan, right, for a meat department or deli department for the holidays, to getting that continuous education, because we know we're going to have those newer associates within our stores. Just make sure everybody's aware of the plan, how to deploy the plan and how to execute the plan, and where to get help with the plan where you need it.
Excellent. Sarah, how about you? As far as, the learning curve, I guess, for, lessons learned in years past. Anything you guys are doing a little bit different this year that maybe you didn't do last year, or that you learned from the last few years?
Yeah, no, I mean, no wholesale major changes. Certainly, want to build off of something Brenda said. We do postmortems and we take field feedback. We take cross-functional feedback, and we get in these big working sessions and kind of whiteboard out what worked, what didn't. And so, certainly when you think about things over the last few years, really putting a spotlight on stores that have been, a victim of either workplace violence or, theft or whatever that is, and making sure we're getting those on a short list to monitor more closely, putting in any additional technology and things that we can do there. And then, certainly one of the things that is not popular, but we continue to push on a little bit is, there's not one store that's the same. We're not in one unique environment across the country, and we probably shouldn't put the same products in all of our 2,000 store locations, right? Might be better to do a modified event or a scaled back event in some of these stores, knowing that we're going to encounter probably a higher loss rate on some of these products. And so, definitely something we're putting toes in the water and kind of approaching gently, to say, hey, merchants, we may need to think about things a little bit different and how we're protecting and what we're assorting. And also, if anything, I'd say that's probably a little bit unconventional for where we've been in the past, but, certainly I think would make sense to everybody on this call as we think about what we should do and what we shouldn't do.
Excellent. David, what about technology? From a technology perspective, I know you guys rely heavily on, your camera systems and your alarm systems and your parking lot systems and so forth. And as I think everyone has sort of elevated that over the years, what are we doing to prepare now? Are we doing more systems checks? How do we make sure everything's ready, right, for the main event here?
Well, I can tell you, we have a robust protocol on how we check all of our systems, and maybe being able to do it remotely and deploy resources to address whatever we need to throughout our portfolio. One of the cool innovations that we've had recently is around our perpetual RFID inventory. So when we do cycle counts on a monthly basis, to be able to exactly see what SKU or down to the UPC level is getting is missing the most in the company at any given time. And to be able to see that on a portable device anywhere you are in our store, while you're right in front of a fixture, is a really big leap for us today, because of the amount of SKUs that we own and the amount of data that we had to procure to be able to get that interface in for all of our teams to utilize is going to help us, one, move faster on the things that are being stolen the most, down to the detail where you can click on the image and it pops up right in front of you while you're still at the fixture. So that's good for helping us drive sales, but also being able to protect things a lot faster and to have more adoption of some of the tools that we're using to understand what's missing. In the past, we would have to use 2 different types of systems, and based upon your acumen and tenure with the company, it was a lot complicated. We sped that process up by 10-fold recently, and that's something that's going to be a big game changer for us this fall season.
Jeremy, I saw you nodding along a lot. Similar at PetSmart?
Yes, and especially the emphasis around inventory accuracy. When you think about the new omni-channel offerings and different focus models, and pet parents coming to our stores for the first time, perhaps during this time, and leveraging some of our newer technology applications. If we're not there and ready to support them and have the right product on the shelf at the right time, we don't want to disappoint them. So starting into next month, we have a heavy emphasis, one of our awareness topics being around inventory accuracy ahead of the holiday season, so that we have the right inventory at the right time, at the right spot there on the display or on the shelf, as well as a recertification for our leaders around our inventory management processes. Just, again, it's a great refresher going into the holiday time period. Make sure we're executing on all cylinders as it relates to inventory management, so we don't let any of our pet parents down during the holiday season.
Excellent.
One of the questions that came in has to do with this topic, and if you can't comment about it specifically, totally understand, but one of our attendees would like to know if anyone's looking at or exploring body-worn cameras as a de-escalation tool.
Apparently.
Apparently. Okay, silence says all.
All right, there we go. I know there's some retailers out there doing it and looking at it from that, specifically from that perspective too, because the person knows they're, on camera and stuff. I think we did a session on that a couple of months ago, and there were a few folks, but I don't think it's really widely accepted here. It's very big over in Europe, but not quite as big here from what I've seen. So at least to date.
I can tell you from a Macy's perspective, we attend all the conferences, also aware of some of those studies, Kevin, and we keep the door open on all of our different options when we deploy it, what it looks like, and with what vendor is still, still a lot to be discussed. So we are exploring every option that we have to help keep our colleagues safe and customers safe. But that's kind of where we're at right now. We always keep the door on all of our different options.
We've got a lot of pressure that comes in around the holidays. We talked about that with the EAP and some of the programs that we have to help support people and stuff. But how do you guys, I guess twofold, right? One, how do you keep it light? How do you keep people motivated? And then how do you find time for yourself? So Brenda, let's jump to you first and see is there anything you guys do to maybe keep people, sort of fired up and motivated for the holidays, both the AP teams and the store teams, right? But just getting your AP folks, fired up and working those long hours, right?
Yeah. I would say that a couple things. One, our teams are highly integrated with the store teams. And so, regardless of, what level, if they're an RAPM or an AP investigator, they're highly integrated. So a lot of our team takes part in the activities that are going on in the stores throughout the holiday season. And so, I'd love to see that, because it really is just a sign of how integrated our team is with the stores team and the store ops team here. One of the things we do as an AP team for our team specifically is, send gifts throughout the holiday season to our team. Sometimes they can be as small as a gift card or even thank you notes and some of those things. So we stay connected as a team through team calls each month, doing some recognition along the way, of course. And so that's part of how, we stay connected and keep our teams engaged. I think the other part of your question was how we all make time for ourselves and keep ourselves going. And, for me personally, it's that pre-game gaming, if you will. So making sure I take my own time away, right? Making sure I take my vacation time and do the things that help me de-stress. I try really hard to keep my family very informed about my travel schedule and as far out as possible, right? So they can be planned as well. And just from a personal health, I try to work out. I don't get it in every day, but I try. And I know myself well enough to know if I don't do it first thing in the morning, it's never going to happen. So I tend to get up early and get that done and out of the way. And that keeps me going.
That's great. That's great. Sarah, how about at Home Depot?
A lot of same things, but I mean, what would the holidays be without an ugly sweater contest? All kinds of things. So, the leadership team, our support system is pretty awesome, and we have fun Christmas cards. I was laughing when the ornaments came up. Right, we send out Christmas cards with all of us and precarious positions and costumes and who knows what else is going on. So we do try to keep it light, but certainly, one of our core values is giving back. And so, you'll find us across the country at food banks doing toy drives, empty stocking fund here in Atlanta. So we do a lot of different things, and we try to create opportunities, like I said, across the country, because not everybody's in Atlanta and they can't fly in and participate. So we'll do things at a lot of our distribution centers across the country, and we'll bring in cookies and donuts and all kinds of things. And so certainly try to keep it light. Lots of recognition through the calls, through the holiday season, bravos, always saying thanks and trying to make sure everybody knows how appreciated they are. But it's certainly a stressful season. It's long hours for all of us, again, no secret for anyone. And I think part of that is when you're taking time off, if you're able to take time off, it's really taking the opportunity to disconnect and putting the phone in the drawer or in the glove box or whatever it is. Because I think a lot of us are wired the same way, that we don't want to quite lose touch with what's going on, but at the same time, we physically and mentally need to make sure that we are unplugging and recharging as best we can, because we can't support our team and our associates if we're not in a good space. So those are some things, again, kind of like I'm not working out as much as I should these days, but I try to put down the beverage and put the phone away and enjoy some holiday movies and all with the family, when you get the chance, because it is few and far between.
Starting with Die Hard. Right.
Yeah, there you go. Top of the list. My husband would agree. We start with A Christmas Story, which is not popular across a lot of groups, but either way.
That's great. Yeah, my wife's a big Hallmark fan, so I've been indoctrinated into that. Richard, you're Kroger's huge on recognition. One thing I definitely see there over and over. Anything special for the holidays?
Yeah, so we do multiple things, to keep that re-engagement around the holidays and just to keep everybody energized, from adoptive families to holiday parties, the normal stuff that many of us do, around the holidays. But the consistent recognition and uplift is key to Kroger culture. We drive that every single day. And, it could be anything from a formal recognition, right, to what we have digital uplifts, where anybody in the company can recognize anybody at any time. And that recognition not only gets seen by that individual, but also gets seen by their supervisor. And we do a really good job on sharing that recognition when it does happen within the asset protection role. But also, we do this quite often. Mike Lamb does it. I do it myself. Is just that personal touch of just picking up the phone, right, and calling somebody and saying thank you for what you do, and you're appreciated. Thank you for what you did the other day. And we also, we don't overlook the little things either, but just remembering to recognize the day-to-day tasks that often go overlooked. And just remember that, everybody's important, and everything that everybody does, no matter how big or small, plays an important role to the success of the company. So just making sure we give that recognition at all levels. Now, just to add in on the taking time for yourself, as each one of us mentioned already, it's something that's very, very hard to do personally. We're all committed to our roles, and we often find it hard to step away. But, it's important that you force that time, for yourself. You can't drink from an empty cup, right? So one thing that we all have to get, comfortable with, not only ourselves as leaders, but, across all levels of all organizations, is getting used to letting go, right? And delegating and trusting others that, the business is going to run if I step away for a day or a couple of days or a week, heaven forbid, right? This Kroger will still be here when I come back tomorrow, or in a week, and we'll be okay. So again, getting that disconnect, you got to do it. You got to take care of yourself first. And then, but you got to be able to utilize the resources that are around you and the support group that you have around you to get that done at the same time. So don't be afraid to let go.
That's great advice. Great advice. David, anything special at Macy's? I know I worked at Macy's, I worked at Bloomingdale's, even with Tiffany, the issues with having a position, even in corporate, you had to work 6-day weeks, you had to be in the stores, supporting the stores and so forth. And it was a lot. There was a lot of pressure on that. And I don't, we didn't really take that time like we probably should have. And we didn't really have those programs. You guys do anything special to help support the store teams?
When did you leave, Kevin?
Oh, it was a while ago.
That's
It was a while ago.
That's what I thought you were gonna say. So
Yeah, it was a long time ago. This was 90s. This was 90s. So
okay, gotcha. Our culture's changed significantly since then. So, you heard Brenda talk about being able to detach. We also lead by example. So when we go on vacation, my team's going to look at me and how I respond, how many emails I send out, how tuned in I am, and they're going to try to follow and role model that behavior too. So when I detach, I'll put somebody in charge, and everything goes to them. It's a great development tool for them. Helps platform them in different ways, give them different experiences, and helps build their acumen. And to be able to lead by example is so important. So the stigma of taking time off, even if it was just during the regular part of the year, we encourage our teams to take off. We have a very generous compensation package with paid time off, and that's changed long time ago, and we're definitely in a better place. The other part is being tuned into our team's well-being. So we have various different names out there in the industry. Ours is called the Pulse Survey, where we have a variety of questions to understand our colleague health and well-being and some of their opportunities that they want us to improve on. And to be able to have that trust level with our colleagues to understand when, yep, they're being overwhelmed right now. I see it, and maybe they're taking too much on. Maybe they have too much of an opportunity with delegation and need to be guided. And being able to have that connection with the team to say, hey, look, why don't you take tomorrow off and disconnect and get that breather, and to have that relationship to make sure it's okay. And definitely get tuned into that a lot more during those 6-day weeks. The other piece of it is we have a company social media platform that's specific for recognition. So to be able to recognize great performances, great effort, great leadership, different qualities that we can celebrate across the company that's visible to anybody in the company is a wonderful thing. And also just a reminder, when we get into this industry, if you remember like the first shoplifting case you made or first internal case that you solved, you get an adrenaline rush that you don't necessarily get in some of the different functions of our business. Like, I don't think anybody's in accounting right now slapping each other a high five because they balanced a spreadsheet. We have a lot of fun during the fourth quarter that a lot of folks just don't get to have. And to remind that, hey, look, we can have fun, we can be competitive, get results, grow our careers, and not get burned out all at the same time. We have a lot to learn, and we learn at a faster pace during that fourth quarter. So to really leverage that and focus on that with our teams.
Awesome. Well, and thanks for having me date myself to have to forcibly say that it was actually throughout the 90s. But all right, Stefanie.
Yeah, so great questions sitting in the Q&A right now. So I'd like to kind of finish it off with some of these, and I'll just open it up to the group. This is from Stacy Irving. She asked, how do you work with police departments in advance of the holiday season or your prosecutor's office? I think this is a great question. Does anybody do anything special to engage with those groups?
I'll start. So actually something we're just getting ready to launch now is a law enforcement partnership video and information. And so it's connected to a case building platform that we are part of. So we just launched that last year with our team, and it kind of holds all of the evidence for all of our external cases. And that platform allows us to share those cases directly with law enforcement. So all of our videos, photos, reports, all things that you can imagine that you would want to put together to present to law enforcement or prosecuting attorneys is in this case system. And then the video is in there as well. So the platform is hosting the video for us, and it is a video that tells law enforcement all about the things that we do, how we investigate, the tools that we use to investigate any crimes that are occurring in our buildings, and what we want to do with it, right? How we want to partner with them. So we are launching that now, and really working hard to get connected to law enforcement through that process. So something new we're doing.
Right. I know back in the day that one of the things we used to do is go and have coffee with our local
Mhm.
folks and meet up and just talk about some of our challenges ahead of time, ahead of the holidays, right? Didn't want to wait until we're in the midst of it. Anybody else do anything sort of like that, sort of meetings, one-on-ones?
Or have them walk the stores. You have, do you know if they have local PD come and walk some of the stores with you? Or when I was at Macy's, we used to let the canine teams come in and work. Sarah, I saw you were going to say something. Go ahead.
No, I was you're spot on, and we do a lot at the local level. We certainly want to encourage our stores, both the store leaders and the AP team to engage locally. Spending time walking the stores, certainly showcasing a lot of the technology, because historically, as we all started to ramp up and it started getting really bad, everybody's like, well, what are you doing about it? And we're like, we're trying, and so now being able to showcase and spotlight a lot of the great tools and resources that we do have in the buildings, what we're doing to try to help and do our part to control, welcoming them in. We've got coffee at our pro desks. We offer them a place to work in the office or break rooms if they need a place to office out of for the morning, certainly parking, all of those kinds of things. So really local, organic kind of efforts that we have across the country for sure that are super, super helpful.
Right. So we had another question that sort of backed us up to our conversation about the EAPs. Michael Noha had asked, does anyone do empathetic leadership training? Let's see that.
I'll share something that we do. So with our emergency operations center, they are taking calls from associates from around the world, really, primarily here in the US. And when those calls are coming in, they're usually a significant safety incident, a shoplifting incident, something not great happening, right? And so that team has to really be empathetic, and they have to be good listeners and be able to respond appropriately to help that associate either calm down or be able to effectively answer what's going on. And so each month we do a training with that group. And actually last month, that topic was active listening and listening with empathy. And so I think definitely when you're engaging with associates in those moments, how important that can be. Yep.
It's great to hear that. We had another question. This is a great one from Mark Ringette. I think I pronounced that correctly. Do you find it more challenging during the holiday season to manage the no to avoid the overcommitment? I know personally I do. Got to go to every party, do everything, right? So how does this group feel about that?
Yeah, I'll lean in a little bit on that. Yes, it's hard to
Yes.
mitigate that no, right? But because we want to be everything to everybody, right? We want to be that servant leader and do as much as we can. But it all goes back to that taking time for yourself piece too. Know your limits, know where your capacities are, and don't be afraid to delegate where you can. And it's okay to say no, especially if it's going to put you in a position where you're going to overcommit and you can't perform or deliver the expectation that is coming from that commitment. So again, it's about that partnership and that team building too, and building that cross relationship that where they understand that capacity as well, right? Whoever that ask is coming from, the different business partners.
I think a lot of it also, comes back to prioritization and understanding what's going to have the most impact at the time, being able to respond as needed with emerging trends as things are occurring in the moment, but also then deprioritizing things so that we're not overwhelming our teams, as we know how impacted it is during these times.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's about it, Kevin. We had a couple more questions, but I think we're at the end of our time. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I want to start by thanking the panel. Thank you very much, Brenda, David, Sarah, Richard, Jeremy. You guys were great today. We really appreciate your time and sharing all the your best practices and experiences here. I know people got a lot out of that. We all learn, from each other, right? It's where we do most of our best work, is learning from our peers. So thank you guys again for joining us. Thank you again to our sponsors, to Sensormatic, to Appriss Retail, to Checkpoint. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate everyone checking out those sponsors and supporting these guys, because again, we can't do this without them, and we can't do this without you. So thank you very much for attending today. And a big thank you to LPF as our education partner. Again, make sure you keep track of these webinar attendances, because you get 3 CEU credits for today's session. Stephanie, that QR code is up.
Hey, it's free.
Yeah.
Subscribe to
Or you can go to lostpreventionmedia.com and hit the subscribe button as well. So if you weren't sitting here anxiously waiting with your phone to scan that QR code again, try that, and that'll get you subscribed as well. And that'll do it for us for today. We thank you again for joining us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panel. Thanks for attending. Thank you, Stephanie. And we look forward to seeing you guys again soon. So take care and stay safe.